Welcome to Greenhouse Grower to Grower, the podcast where we talk to growers from across the greenhouse industry about market trends, innovation, their biggest challenges and opportunities, and more. I'm Brian Sparks, Senior Editor of Greenhouse Grower. Kristine Lonergan is Vice President of Sales and Marketing for Garden State Growers, which grows annuals, perennials, and houseplants across 3 locations in New Jersey. I recently caught up with Kristine to talk about lessons the company learned from the 2023 growing season, how they're planning for 2024, and why it's important to get out in the field to meet with and get to know your customers. Here's our conversation.
We were very pleased with this year from a number of angles, but we approached this year from a planning perspective because obviously the year starts with planning, and we approached it, I would say, a little bit more conservatively, but it was definitely in our favor. And, it's no mystery. There have been some retail increases. We weren't really sure how the customer was going to react to them, but we have no data to back this up, but we do think that because there's other items that customers were shopping for earlier in the year, like, food, milk, eggs, and they all went up, we feel like that may have softened a little bit. And so the consumer was almost, I don't know if expecting it, but there wasn't sticker shock like we thought there might be.
Okay.
So we were happy with this year. We were very pleased.
So who exactly is your end consumer then for Garden State?
So we currently, we ship to Home Depot, Costco, Walmart, and Tractor Supply.
Okay. You mentioned how the season did. So I know, we heard so many times this year about, after the strong years of, largely strong years, I'd say, of 2020 and 2021, and things were a little bit more challenging in 2022. We kept hearing the word uncertainty when it came to planning for 2023. Was that were you guys in the same boat with kind of wondering how the year was going to shape up? Because going from year to year can be a challenge to track sometimes.
Yeah, I think there was a little bit of uncertainty, and, the grower community is pretty close. So there's a lot of back and forth and talking with other growers. And I think it was reassuring for us to know that there were other growers who are a little uncertain. But, and I think, not speaking for all growers, but I do think everybody approached it maybe on the more conservative side. So it definitely fared well for us.
Okay. What would you say, I'm sure you've already started the process for building for next year then. What do you think are some of the biggest lessons that you learned from this year that can potentially be used as you start to plan for 2024?
And yes, we are way into the planning mode. One of the biggest things we learned, and it wasn't like we've done this in the past, but it really did pay off this year. Even though during season it's very busy in the greenhouses and it's very difficult to leave the greenhouse because so much is happening, we made a concerted effort to take at least 1 to 2 days a week in the field and visit our customers, our stores, some of the competition. But really it was just to get customer feedback, and also we do a lot of merchandising in our stores, and also to hear from real life merchandisers and what's really going on in these locations. It was in some cases it was eye-opening, but it also gave us a little bit of an edge to be able to potentially pivot where we could. For example, during the heat of the season, no pun intended, we were shipping racks of hosta. Okay. Because there was limited space on the tables. The product ends up staying on racks, which we see a lot. But we realized that having hosta on that top shelf in the sun was not helping anybody. So we quickly changed that, made sure that we put another variety on the top shelf that could withstand the sun. And it sounded like a minor thing, but it was huge. It was a shelf of product that potentially we would lose in a store. So it's really getting out in the field and really identifying potentially things that we could quickly change. So that was definitely a good learning for us. And we plan to do it all through fall and into next spring.
Okay. Yeah, I can imagine, as you're shipping plants out, the challenge is, once they leave, your facility, then knowing the state that they're in once they're at, the retail level, and, being able to have some control, because, if there's an issue on the consumer end, it could eventually make its way back to, where the plant came from. So that's good that you guys are going to keep in track of that from that perspective.
And yeah, and it's also good to hear from, your merchandisers. They're on the front line, taking the product off the shelves, merchandising it. So just getting their really unedited feedback is invaluable.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Kind of with that being said, as you look to next year, what do you see as the biggest opportunity for Garden State to thrive in 2024?
For sure, the container business that continues to grow. And I think that's clearly a result of one of our challenges, which is the consumer is starved for time. She's looking for convenience. And we saw a direct correlation with we believe there's a customer out there who's starved for time. So the container business continues to grow, both annuals and perennials. Not sure if the customer even cares if it's a perennial in a container. It's pretty, it's an impulse buy. And we've heard this throughout the years, but this past year, we've just seen a huge increase of it. So we're going to continue to grow that category as well. And that was across all of our customers.
Okay.
And then we're going to continue to grow we've seen an increase in our vegetable business, and that's no surprise. It's kind of grow your own. And I think some of it was due to, during the COVID, post-COVID, and people were just more comfortable trying to grow their own. And that trend has continued. And I think there's just this with the millennials, it's just that wanting to rely on themselves to be able to grow their own vegetables. So both of those categories we're going to continue to increase.
Okay. Do you see any changes happening within Garden State? I don't know if you guys are looking at new tech as you expand in some crop areas, or perhaps in different production techniques that you're looking at.
We're always looking to become more automated. We do have some. You should actually come out and visit. We do have some different robots in our production department, which has helped a lot and alleviate some of the labor challenges.
Sure.
But we're constantly looking for improvement through automation.
Okay, you mentioned labor there, so I know labor is a big challenge for most everybody in the industry. So is that your biggest challenge, or are there other things that you guys are kind of monitoring that could kind of dictate, how successful you could be in 2024?
Labor, yes, it's a challenge, but we're using H2A, and that's working out well for us. That's helped a lot. So I don't know if that's our biggest challenge. I think right now, and I'm coming from just really the customer side of it, I think our biggest challenge, and it has been, is finding, this is completely off the topic, but it's finding affordable, sustainable packaging solutions. Because a lot of our customers are looking for, more sustainable packaging. And there are a lot of options out there, but it really comes down to just how affordable they are.
Okay. That's interesting you say that. I didn't know about, as who the end consumer tends to evolve as, more millennials enter the housing market, for example. Is that kind of dictating? I don't know, you mentioned the containers, but are you seeing them shop differently and compare things differently when they're looking for plants to buy?
One of the things we did notice when we were visiting stores, and this was typically we would visit, middle of the week, middle of the afternoon type of thing. And a lot of boomers. I mean, they're the people my age shopping that have taken on retirement, and they're still gardening, and they're very focused on their gardening. And then the millennials were shopping later in the day, and that was more geared towards containers, just the convenience of it. But I don't think we can just focus in on the millennials. There's a lot of other customers out there. As far as what we're seeing is smaller spaces. So I think again it comes down to more apartment dwellers because they can't afford a home because of potentially maybe the interest rates are too high for them. But we are finding again the container business has gone up.
Last question I'll ask is you guys are trying new varieties. So is there a variety that you guys are growing there that jumps out at you personally? You think that, I need to have this at my own home as well, in addition to selling it?
Oh, it's such a hard question because, first of all, we do a lot of trials. We have a team that does the whole trial program. So we do partner with a lot of the breeders, and we learn a lot from that, because our goal is to grow plants that are going to work for the consumer, Gary. Because we do hear a lot about what's great in the heat. Whether you believe it or not on climate change, I still think there is a customer looking for something that's going to withstand not having to be watered every day. Deer resistant, shade loving. So we're very aware of what the customers are looking for. So we try to really obviously introduce items that will work with their lifestyle. But if you were to ask me, that is a tough question, Brian. I personally, and I was just sending some pictures to the PW group, I am addicted to bubble gum. I can't, it is like my all-time favorite. It's the best performer, and nice. And I'm not getting paid by PW for that. But no, there's so many varieties. I love the Calibracoas by Dooman. There's just so many out there. But yeah, bubblegum is by far my favorite.
Thanks for joining us. You can learn more at greenhousegrower.com. Please subscribe to this podcast wherever you listen.